It's better than an off-brand cock.
And so do we let those people fall through the cracks?
I don't want a Walmart blow-up doll anyways.
You can share the link with me after the show.
I just feel like human beings in general are pretty dumb. He's the supreme leader of the lizard people.
I kind of want Greenland.
You can fire up to 800 rounds in a minute.
Yeah, whenever you're hunting little squirmy slitheries and hoppity hoppities, you gotta go bumpity bumpities.
Live from wherever the simulation wants us, it's the Socially Awkwards Podcast. I am Matrix Stewart, and he is Kelsey Brammer. Today, we are talking about the political middle. We're going to try to take two total opposite sides of the spectrum in political ideologies, and we're going to try to bring them together and see if we can get people talking about issues together again, because in today's polarization of this country, everything is crazy with people, and we would really like to solve all the world's problems right here, right now. Just me and you, two white men. Let's do it. Are you ready to do this, Kelsey Brammer?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. First of all, I want to ask you a question. How many people do you think have read through the entire Constitution?
I'm going to say
I don't have an
30.
Answer. This is hypothetical, but go ahead.
I have one though. I think I'm going to say 30. I'm going to say 39,000.
Oh, of all of the people that are alive today in this country? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And probably just ones that had to, right? Like for whatever their job was, or I mean, I'm going to tell you now, I haven't read through all of the entire Constitution. Who's got time for that?
Nobody does. I think you have the occasional, maybe like Alex Jones, who might have read through it just based on some vendetta or talking point he wanted to make. Yeah, I think a lot of people probably read through it in school. Isn't there like a civics class that most people end up taking, American history, that you
I mean, I don't 100% remember reading through it, but I'm assuming we read at least some of it, in, I don't know. I would think so. Do you remember reading any of it in school? I mean, I probably read more of it now than I have in the past, but I don't know.
So I don't remember reading it, but I remember writing it.
Oh, because you were one of the founding fathers. I forgot that you were one of them.
Yeah.
All right. So you already know everything that it says.
Yeah. Most people think it says Hancock, but it's actually Brancock.
Brancock, which was your name until you changed it. Because you're a vampire and you've been alive for centuries upon centuries.
Well, there's political reasons to change it too, but
yeah.
No, I wasn't there during the founding fathers when they were signing it and making it. There was a class in high school.
In school?
Yeah, in school they made me write it out. There was a class where, I was a bad kid that year, but everybody had to write it out.
Okay.
From beginning to end, the entire class. Every day you'd walk into school and you'd see like a new section of like multiple paragraphs written up on a chalkboard, and your goal for that whole class was to just write that down. And this particular teacher, his goal was to make it so that way from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, by the time you reach the end of the year, you had written the entire Constitution out. And that's what I remember. Well, let me tell you,
that sounds like a good teacher. I don't know if he was a good teacher. I don't know if you liked him or her.
He wasn't that great.
Okay. Well, that's sad. It is crazy though, because I don't remember any of that, having to do that in high school. We did go to high school in the same state, but not to the same high school. So it is kind of weird how there's different discretions there about what they do. But yeah.
Yeah. I didn't do it. I was supposed to do it.
Oh, okay. So you were just a bad kid. You're just bad. Brancock. John Brancock. Good. It's better than an off-brand cock. Just saying. Yeah, like an Aldi's cock or something. Or like a Save-A-Lot cock.
Is Aldi's really off? Yeah, Save-A-Lot's a better. I think. Yeah,
Save-A-Lot
like a Spartan.
Save-A-Lot has Bubba Cola, which was the thing that I laughed at one of the most times whenever I go in there, and they'd be like, they literally have cola that's called Bubba Cola. I mean, it seems like they could have come up with a better name. I don't know.
Yeah, Bubba Cola. I really love the Dr. Thunder. That's a great one. I've always had a soft spot for Mountain Holler. I think that's great.
Nice.
And
you got a lot of soft spots. You should probably get those
And
checked
where's
out.
the yeah, I'm like a newborn.
Yeah.
Where's all the Surefine brands, you know? Do you remember those when you were younger?
Like, is
Surefine?
that a brand, or you just mean like the Surefine brands, like the brands that? Are you
Like
saying
Surefine.
Surefine is a brand, or are you just saying the words Surefine, like brands that you have to
Well,
find?
I'm doing both. The Surefine brands were like when you got them, you were like, yeah, sure, fine. And
Okay. Oh, I
but
got you.
it
Like,
was
so you
called
weren't
Surefine.
like, you just like, it's there. I'll get it. It's not that big of a deal.
Doofer, can we insert a Surefine cereal brand right here?
Yeah,
So that's just an
Surefine.
example. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. We will do that. I'll have producer Doofer get on that. He is back from Montana, so it's good to know that he's back. He was recently in Minneapolis though, and who knows what happened there. All right. Well, I think the first thing we should talk about is, I mean, we're going to talk about four main things, four main political issues that are pretty much on the ballot in a way every couple of years. Healthcare, immigration, of course, gun rights, and climate change. But how do we get two so polarized opposites? How do we get them together to talk about this in the first place? How do you do it? Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Jubilee, where they do the surrounded, and it's like 20 versus 1. That's interesting, but I also feel like it's probably not changing too many people's minds. I don't know for sure. But how do we start? Because when you get to the middle ground of things, you really can't be like, okay, we're going to talk about healthcare. We're going to talk about climate change. We're going to talk about gun rights. We're going to talk about all these things. And when in reality, you should probably start small, because there are a lot of things that I think that both sides would agree on if they would just talk to each other. But that's the big thing. How do you get everybody to the table when there's nothing to munch on? You know what I'm saying? Got to have food on that table. And that food's
Yeah.
got to
That's
be the
why
food for thought.
that's a good one. Yeah. That's why at my house we have a big candy bowl and
Yeah.
people are always munching.
That's why I don't go there, because I would eat the bowl itself with all the candy in it.
because it's
Is it wood? Is it
I
a
mean,
wood bowl? Is it ceramic?
it's a metal. It's actually
It's
a
metal?
dog bowl, believe it or not. It's
Like
it's
a
actually a
dog
giant
bowl
dog bowl.
that was never used? Or you don't know for sure?
I bought it specifically to put candy in it.
Because you're a smart shopper. You're like, instead of buying a candy dish, I'm going to go look at the cheap dog bowls and then just put candy in that instead. Is that,
I wish I could say yes to that, but it's actually
you want to be
it's
frugal. You want the people to know you're frugal, but you're actually not frugal.
people don't just sell. You don't go to like the candy bowl aisle. They don't have that. So
No, yeah. Maybe like a popcorn
so what do you
bowl.
buy? Like
Maybe. I don't know.
yeah, but I wanted something a little bit more permanent and with some solidity to it. So
Right.
I was like, I want a bowl, but I didn't want to buy a pot or pan. I didn't want to buy a cheap, something plastic. And so I was like, what? I was thinking about what would be like a good sturdy metallic bowl, and that's what led me to the dog section. And I found this really nice big like hunk of piece of metal and set it out, and we keep candy in it.
That's going to be the
So it's
name of
full
this
of
podcast, is That's What Led Me to the Dog Section. That's like a perfect mark that.
yeah,
Yeah.
an episode or
Yeah.
just a rebrand of the entire podcast.
Yeah, just that.
Okay.
Just an episode name
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'd love to sit here and talk about your candy all day, like what kinds you have and stuff, but we'll get back on point here. How do we get people to the table? How do we get them to talk about these things, especially if they are on the extreme sides of things? What is your thoughts? And I say this without having many thoughts of my own on this issue, so I'm hoping you can carry
Well,
this.
then I'll talk while I talk.
I'll think.
While I just open my mind and
I'll think.
spew out words, you actually formulate some thoughts that
Yeah,
are
I'll do
cohesive,
that.
and you can come in and save the day.
Or
But
I'll
I'm going to
act
start
like I'm
off
doing
with
it.
something that probably, sure, yeah, I'm going to start out with something that I think should be fairly obvious and people have heard before. But I'm going to say the first word is curiosity. So I think to actually be curious about the thoughts and positions, and not just the position, but the experience of somebody else, because I think that
Oh, that's a
I
good
talked
thought,
about this a while back with like free will versus determinism, right? Where it's like, if you think like if you were somebody else, you would probably do the same thing that led you to the same actions, right? Like Hitler was a bad guy, but if you were Hitler and you grew up with his life and you had his brain,
Right.
you would just do what he did. You would be him. So like, I think having that amount of empathy for looking at somebody else, hearing their argument and saying like they lived a life that led them to that point. And I think that it can be helpful to at least be curious about understanding that. It's not, people don't always want to open up like that, but at least just be curious enough to dig a little bit into their position and have them justify it. Some people don't take those justifications very well. They can get defensive, which is understandable. And that's why sometimes you don't always get two people to the center of the table. But if both people can be at least curious, then I think that's a start.
Yeah. We had a discussion on here before. I think I posted a video up on this at one point on YouTube and Facebook about how everybody has the political label, and if you're not part of that political label, you don't even want to hear from them. Like no matter what, an individual is labeled for one side or the other, and then that makes that instantly of the people that want to listen to you, right? Because you're part of that base or whatever. And I think you had a good metaphor for it. I don't think you're much of a sports guy, but you had a good sports metaphor for it, which was that we're looking at this as like, if they're not on that football team and they don't wear those jerseys, then we don't want to fucking listen to them. That's the team that we were in. And that's really tough nowadays. You also brought up another point, which was basically what this is what you said is trusting the source. We kind of get that way. And I guess we can start diving into healthcare right now, because one of the first things I'm going to talk about is how people have an issue with vaccinations and how they will trust the source of maybe 5% of the population that says, hey, they're bad. This is what they're doing. They're causing autism, whatever it is that they think is happening. Where for so many years, we've had all these studies from 95% of the other people, and all these people have medical degrees. We're not going to take studies from a mechanic or from, somebody else. We're going to take studies that, are people that have studied this kind of thing and got their PhDs. And so, how much do you trust the source? Because I think a lot of people will say this way or this way about certain things, but, especially with vaccinations, but then they'll still go in and talk to their doctor, and then they'll trust their doctor from whatever the doctor says. And you don't know nowadays, it's becoming more and more evident that people from both sides will say, okay, well, you can't trust this source or you can't trust this source. And so that brings me to my next thing, which would be education. You've got to be educated in matters to know what's going on. You have to, like we just spoke about, not too many people have read the Constitution through and through. Or if they have, they haven't grasped it the rest of the time of their lives or whatever. So we have to put education, trusting the source, and then the third thing I have here is stubbornness. Some people are just too stubborn. It's their way or nothing. That's how they believe it. Nothing that you say is going to ever change their mind. So we have to take these three things in my mind, these three things that I've created just currently right now with my fantabulous brain. And we have to say, okay, how do we get people educated enough to understand that there are two opposite opinions and how to get them into the middle? How do we get people to trust a source when, if you're from one side and that source isn't on your side, you know, you might not believe it. And the third one, which is probably one of the harder ones, is how do you get people to stop being so damn stubborn? Which I don't know. But when it comes to healthcare, let's talk about this a little bit. You have there's the far right, which would probably say you don't have the right to free healthcare. And then there is the far left, who would probably say, everyone, it doesn't matter who it is in this country, as long as you're in this country, you have the right to free healthcare. So how do we get to the middle? I'm asking you.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let me give you the answer. And then
Yeah,
we can move on.
I want the best answer from Mr. John Brancock himself.
How do we get to the middle? Well, so if I go back to what I said, curiosity, that would have to lead me in the direction of saying, what do you mean by we don't deserve free healthcare? How, like, in the world where we don't deserve it, how do we get it? What is the methodology that we should put into practice where each person individually can have healthcare for themselves? What does it take? I would assume that that person would say that you work for it, that you You work so that way you can have the money or the resources to be able to afford the healthcare by the person that is providing you the healthcare. And the problem with that is that the counterpoint is that it leaves out people who might not be able to, don't have the money or the resources, people who need healthcare but don't have that. And so do we let those people fall through the cracks? And I mean, sure, you can advocate for an absolutely like brutalist kind of society where it's like a survival of the fittest scenario where you do that, and it's sort of the wild west of healthcare and people live and people die. But I think that there's something about that world that most people probably don't want to actually live in. I think that world seems to work for the people who do have the money and resources, but for the people who don't, that absolutely is not the kind of world that you would want to live in. So your question about how do we get to the middle? So yeah, I'm trying to bring it back to curiosity. Is like, what on the right leads you to have that position, and what on the left leads you to have that position? So people on the left says that everybody, how did you state it? Everybody deserves healthcare, or
Everybody has a
healthcare is
right. Everybody has a
everybody
right.
has a right.
Yeah. And I feel like the word right is very important here, because there will be a lot of people on the right who will say, and I don't mean because it's it coincides with people on the right. What I mean is that people on the right will say, well, hey, that's not in the Constitution. We have a right to have free speech. We have a right to bear arms. We have, all these different rights. But that one's not in there. So we shouldn't have to deal with that. And so they'll do it on a constitutional basis, which,
Yeah.
I guess I kind of understand. But then I've also seen those same people skip a couple of, amendments, if they will, and be like, oh, well, that's not, or whatever. And then on the left, obviously, you have the same situation where it's like, even if you're in this country illegally, you should be able to have free healthcare, no matter who you are. And so what do we do to get in the middle with that? Which I think is kind of partly why we do have private insurers, where it's like, okay, you can, a lot of, and then really what happened in this country is that it's all work-based now, right? Like a lot of it is a lot of people get their insurance through their jobs. And there was a time in this country where if you couldn't do that, you'd be paying a pretty penny or whatever just to get some private insurance, when they didn't have as many people, allowing many people to go through Medicaid or anything like that. But the left says they want basically a Medicare for all, which is probably not totally far left, because Medicare for all would still mean you'd be paying it, because everybody that has Medicare, they pay it. And then and then obviously the right says that, we don't want free healthcare for anybody. Pay for your own healthcare. Their main worry, I think, is constitutional and taxes, right? Like, we don't want our taxes going for that, which, whatever. I mean, I have a big old beef with that, but we don't need to get into that. But saying all that, like, do you think that there's a middle ground there?
I think that there might be a middle ground, but I think so. Thinking about this, healthcare might be an example of one of these sort of industries that doesn't benefit from a middle ground very well, unless you do it very like surgically precise. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it seems like, I'm going to say something that might be controversial, actually.
Ooh.
I think that the best healthcare is actually one of these extremes. And I think that this middle lukewarm healthcare is actually the worst kind of healthcare, because it's like a government subsidized crony capitalistic healthcare that drives up prices and creates this whole insurance racket that goes around in the circle. I actually think that if we could just shut our eyes and have a healthcare utopia, that it would look like either healthcare for all, as like, like a universal healthcare that everybody gets, or it would actually be a true capitalistic healthcare where the government doesn't have a hand in it. A true capitalistic in the terms of like, like how technology is mostly capitalistic, and over time the prices of technology goes down. If you go to Walmart, you can buy a 40-inch or a 50-inch flat screen TV for like $300, and it's absolutely insane. Well, not a Walmart. That might be a website, but
you don't want a Walmart blow up doll anyways.
You can, yeah. You can share the link with me after the show, but
it's an off-brand.
Yeah. So I actually think that the actual like fully right-wing healthcare could work as well. but I don't know if we're ever going to get there without a lot of blood in the streets. So I don't think that's necessarily a smart move. What it might look like is a government healthcare for all that acts as a so here's my middle ground proposition, okay? Is a governmental universal healthcare that is basic, that everybody has access to, but then like the whole insurance racket, government subsidized, whatever, this middleman healthcare industry problem, I think we need to completely get out of it and have that go away, and also have a completely capitalistic healthcare. So let the government universal healthcare compete with the capitalism healthcare, but don't let it be subsidized. Let these companies live and die on their own. So the problems with this, if I can get ahead of my own opinion here real quick, is that there probably will be a certain amount of companies that make really necessary, like necessary products that people really need, that, because healthcare isn't just about doctors, it's also about like pharmaceutical suppliers.
Yeah.
It's really complicated. And so that's why I said like the middle ground has to be really surgical to get right. And I don't know if I have faith that we're ever going to do it. But my middle ground proposition is some sort of government universal healthcare, and then also retreating from, and then sort of letting the market have a separate system of healthcare that is completely capitalistic and has zero government involvement, that can compete on their own terms in the sort of right wing ideal.
Well, let me tell you something. When I started writing down these things, I did start thinking on those grounds. I was like, you know what? I think there are going to be things here that don't really have a middle ground solution. So I'm glad you brought that up because I was like, I feel like there are going to be things where some of the talking points on both sides aren't as bad as people make them out to be. And the middle ground is just not there. And you could argue that we are kind of in a middle ground right now, and it's not so good, right? So, yeah, there is some things there where we have to kind of figure it out. I agree with your middle ground. I mean, I feel like it's got to be one way or the other, and I think that there is something there when people don't. Okay, so people have this thing about an immigrant in this country, an illegal immigrant, because I should say that because we're going to talk about immigration, and there's something where people need to get educated because when you say the word immigration, you can mean different things, right? Like there's multiple versions of that. But when people talk about illegal immigrants like getting injured, like let's say they're driving a car, I don't know how they're driving a car because I don't know if they can get a license, but let's say they're in a car, somebody else is driving, however the scenario goes, and they get into a car accident and they have to go to the ER, and there's people that'll be upset about it. But you don't ever hear those same people being upset about the white drunk driver who just hit another car. And the sole reason why there's five people going in, or how many people are going into emergency at a hospital, is because of that one drunk driver. Right. So there is like this thing where people are like, well, they shouldn't get it, but I guess I don't care if like, so that's where people, so I can understand when people are like, well, that's a racist statement, what you're saying, because it sounds like you just don't want the people of different color to get the insurance, even though you're okay with the white guy who drove drunk and practically killed people or whatever in a car accident. It's really tough to find any middle ground on the talking points. And like you said, I just don't think it's really there with healthcare. So I do agree with you. And I think with that, let's move on because it's tough because I knew that when we did this, it was going to be tough. We're not going to, obviously, I was making a joke earlier when I was like, we're going to solve all the world's problems. I don't think any politician is going to ever solve all the world's problems. And there may be people out there that may have been dictators who have thought that they were going to solve them by being a dictator and say, oh, I'll do this and that. But I don't know too many dictators in history that really came out on the good side of things, right? So it is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But let's talk about immigration. And we obviously there's some things that are happening that have kind of spiced up this talk a little bit within the last couple of weeks with ICE and all of that. But there are different kinds of immigration, right? There's the illegal immigrants, there's the ones that are here on visas, there's the refugees, there's legal immigration. I mean, there's so many different things. And I do really think that some people just wrap them all up into one group and say, we don't want any of them there. And then there's other people who are kind of like, hey, we want them all. I guess that would be the extremes for immigration. Is the far right would say no immigration at all, close all the borders. where the far left would say completely open borders, all are welcome kind of thing. Now, we both underground. I do feel like this is one that would definitely need a middle ground. So, what do we do to this? First of all, I'll tell you my thoughts and then you can tell me yours. I'll take the lead on this one if you'd like. There are things that I don't like about what's happening with ICE. Number one, there was a video going around and a couple of articles with it where people were in line. They had done everything that they needed to do for years and years and years in this country, and they were in line at a courthouse to officially be sworn in as U.S. citizens. ICE went in and took a bunch of those people. Do you think that's fair?
No.
Okay. All right. So that's an extreme, right? And then there's the taxes thing. I feel like every one of these is going to have some kind of tax thing with it too. But there's obviously the people who are worried that there's people that say they cost all this money. We're giving them all these different programs, which really, depending on where you live, is different. They really can't get a lot of federal help because they're not legal citizens. You got to have a social security number for that. And then there's the people that will say that they provide a lot of tax money, which I do believe. I've read some things where they provide over billions of dollars, and these are taxes that they don't get back because they're not a U.S. citizen, and they actually also pay into Social Security. None of these guys are probably going to see that Social Security, so they're actually paying in to help the American citizens. I don't really have a big problem with immigration. Obviously, I don't think everybody should just be allowed in this country. You should have like maybe a number each year. I also don't think you should have a Trump gold card where you got to pay $5 million just to become a citizen in this country. I feel like that's borderline just like corruption of some sort, but we don't need to get into too much of that. And also, my dear friend Dax Shepard said this. And I like this. And this is probably where I'd go with a lot of things on this list is states' rights versus federal rights. Why don't we just take these fucking issues and have people vote on them within the state that they're in? And then if the state says, okay, you guys want this, we'll go with it, or vice versa. And because it's really going to be, and I think that does happen. I think that's why California does have certain elections where immigrants to a certain point can vote. They can't vote in a presidential election, but there are certain things that they can vote on. And then there are states where they don't let them vote on anything. So you have both sides of that. So what do you think about Dax Shepard being my good friend? And also, what do you think about like some of these points that I kind of pointed out to you about immigration, and how do we get to the middle?
Well, I want to start off saying, say hi for me, if you will, to Dex.
I will say, yeah, I would definitely.
And so the point he made was about states' rights versus federal rights.
For immigration specifically, he said, why don't we just have the states vote on whether they want immigrants or not? And then that way we know which states don't want them, don't want them. That way the federal government can come into, let's say, Missouri or something, or I'm trying to think of a more red-leaning state that would say, okay, we don't want them. And the federal will be like, okay, we'll make sure that they're not in your state. We'll let California have them or whatever. Now, obviously, I could see where there's going to be a lot of people on the right. They're going to be like, oh, no, they're going to vote. They're going to take all the money and they're going to do this. It doesn't matter where they're at. And there are things where they have to, I'm going to tell them they got to trust their sources and they got to look into it because it's not as bad as they think it is. They're not paying for all these immigrants to get health care and to do all this stuff. Most of them want to work and most of them want to do the jobs that a lot of us don't want to do. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, my concern is that you wouldn't be able to confidently police that situation and manage it if immigrants come into the country. You're saying that let's say they come into the country and they cross the border into Texas and Texas doesn't want them, then there's some sort of process where they are forcibly moved to a country, let's say like California, that is willing to accept them.
Well, that's a state, but yeah.
Yeah, well.
You said country.
The estate.
Yeah. The estate of California.
I did.
Yeah.
And that's for the king, that's for King Trump. So I don't know if I trust any sort of process. I mean, it sounds like another ICE process to be able to move these people around.
There is that. He didn't say that part, so I don't want to get Dax in trouble, but he just said, let's leave it up to him to the vote. And he didn't really clarify anymore how it would go in the states that would vote against it. So, and obviously Dax is in California. Although him and Kristen just did get a house in, I think, Nashville recently, so they kind of split some time. But really good friends of mine. I'll say hi for you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks. I appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah, so that would be my concern is like, how do you police that? I just feel like these immigrants would come in and they will ultimately because their goal is to stay under the radar, especially if they're here illegally anyway. So it's like, how would we be able to enforce anything involving state specific rights, which could be different from state to state regarding how they want to deal with immigrants. So, in theory and in practice, I think that this is actually good. I like your idea because I think that states' rights in this sense, in the way you laid it out, makes sense. But I just don't know if we can enforce it in any way that would be good in reality.
AI robots. Are you in
Okay,
now?
keep going.
You want more?
Yeah,
AI
yeah.
robots that ride high horses.
Okay,
Yeah, and then they get off and they break and
silicone based
yeah.
robots.
Yeah, you need silicone, yeah, because you need some things that are, or maybe they just build them out of hemp. I don't know, hemp's pretty flexible. But yeah.
Yeah, isn't there some controversy about the hemp industry lately?
Yeah, I think it was more about the CBD products that had THC in them. I don't know. Honestly, it is so hard to keep up with everything that's going on. I mean, we haven't even talked about like I was going to like list the Epstein files and I'm like, well, I think the Epstein files, the middle ground there is just release the Epstein files. I don't know too many
That
people
is,
that'd be
yeah,
like, we shouldn't do that. I think most
and get
people would
rid of all
agree.
redactions. Yeah.
Right, right. Get rid of all the redactions and do that. But yeah,
Let's find a middle ground.
or not healthcare.
Well,
Sorry. Yeah,
what
we're
we're
talking about immigration.
immigration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
lost.
So in the country of California, immigration
Yeah.
is what we're talking about.
Yeah. It could definitely be a
So
country.
yeah, and I think it wants to be, right? And
It
same
might.
in some people
I mean,
want it to be.
it'd have to secede, but I don't know what the seceding. I know what it takes to become a state. Like that needs to go through Congress. I don't know what you need to do to secede.
Yeah. And and really all of us want is just to succeed in life.
I think you got a different word there, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Who knows? It's
They're
one
quite
man's
close.
opinion.
Yeah, yeah,
So immigration, what is the middle ground there? So okay, can we reiterate the extremes? Did you talk about what the extreme positions on immigration are?
yeah. I
Did you
just
already
said
lay them
that
out?
one side would want no immigration at all, would want all the borders like closed, probably a giant wall like Trump's kind of always wanted. And
Yeah.
then obviously the left would want completely open borders. I mean, these are the extremes. I'm not saying that there's probably very many people with those exact views, but I'm just trying to think of the
Yeah.
extremes of what they would be.
Yeah, no borders versus giant, a force field that is
Right. Like a
impenetrable that
billboard of
nobody.
just Trump for like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
100 miles is what they'd
And
want.
the only people who can pass through it are US citizens who are tourists in other countries.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it lets them through, lets their
And
flights through.
some drug dealers. No, I'm just
Some
kidding. I'm just kidding.
some. Well, actually, that's interesting. But yeah, keep the modafinil and and like maybe the opiate suppliers going
Yeah.
because some people like that.
Because we actually do
So
know that the government has been heavily involved in the past in drug dealing themselves with that money. So hopefully not currently, but we'll see.
I actually have a bone to pick with the gold card. I'm not sure that I actually find the gold card immigration thing that much of a crazy idea.
So you want only
No, not only.
no. I mean, I'm thinking. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
like the biggest thing with that, I think people would argue on the left was like, okay, obviously, you don't want people from certain countries coming in here, or the poor shithole countries that you've so labeled in the past. So this is why you're doing the gold card, and you're just going to have the rich people come in and kind of do that or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
different.
well, I've heard the perspective that economically speaking, that people that are able to afford these sort of like gold card immigration cards, that they are the ones that are positioned to come in and start businesses and create jobs and innovate in different sectors. But I also understand the viewpoint that we don't want people coming in just being fat cats, like kind of resting on the laurels of their millions made however they made it, and then coming into America and then just contributing to the class divide that we already have, that we're already struggling with. So I understand that. So
What
my
jobs
point
are
was
they
just that
bringing? Like the thing to me would be like if they're going to bring in a big business or something, what is it going to be? Okay, it's going to be a manufacturing job. He wants to bring manufacturing jobs. The problem is nobody fucking wants to do manufacturing jobs. You know who wants to do the manufacturing jobs? The immigrants.
yeah.
So
So,
it is
but
kind of
listen,
a catch. Yeah, go ahead.
yes. So I don't want to only bring those people in. I
Okay.
just don't like. I just think that having some sort of program like that, whether it exists or it doesn't get me up in arms necessarily. What I do like are the programs that are similar to that, but they're education based. People that are highly achieving, that get a faster access to green cards, I think are interesting.
Right.
People that are really smart,
Yeah.
regardless of income or or resources. And then I think that it's not about finding a political middle right now. I'm just kind of thinking about like what I personally believe about it. And then I think about immigration, as you said, probably is fair to have some sort of cap on it. I don't know if the cap should be an absolute number. It seems like maybe it should be more of a percentage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe, how we have like sort of like inflation rates, or where we have like the Fed sets these rates every year and it's sort of designed to counteract where inflation is at and keep everything under control. So we might have some sort of organization like that that sets the percentage that we're allowed to have in for that year in order to keep the economy under control and make sure things don't, bust and break at the seams in different directions. We definitely need to streamline. Now, most people that I've talked to, even people that are more right leaning, are in agreement that if it takes somebody 10 years to become a citizen, that probably is too much red tape. And so I think it's a fair middle ground to shorten the time that it takes to become a citizen, as long as you pass all the checks, you don't have a criminal record. It shouldn't take 10 years. It should be a lot shorter than that, because now we are putting pressure in the direction of people coming here illegally because you're making it so hard. And I'm not saying anything new here. I know everybody knows how that is the problem, that it's so hard to be a citizen here for some people that it's like, what else are you going to do? Especially if you're trying to get out of a country that is where the conditions are harsh, and
Yeah.
and some people are fleeing their conditions.
That's another big
So
thing of it is I just think as us as Americans, we have a hard time fathoming that situation where like somebody would have to leave their country because things were so bad. And so we just don't, we don't think that. And that's probably more of a like a sympathy, empathy kind of thing where we just don't have enough of it for some people.
yeah, have you ever worked a job that you really didn't like and you knew you had to quit? And imagine if the process for quitting that job took 10 years,
Right.
or you could just quit it right now, but you would be a felon.
Right.
And I think that, some kind of analogy like that, where it's like because everybody can imagine, most people I think have
That's a
had
good
jobs where
analogy. Yeah. I like that.
yeah, well, yeah.
Did you steal it from somebody?
Well, thank you.
Is that why you're
No, no,
Oh, okay.
I just thought of it.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
thought
Well,
of
that's
it.
very good.
And you were making
And
my
I
ego
believe
smile
it's
a little bit.
analology, just so you know. Yeah, the study of
Is it
butts.
olives?
Yeah,
Are you
it's
trying
a
to?
study of
Yeah.
olives in the butt. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, which is great, by the way. I know you like green olives, so get at it.
Yeah. Well, they're green going in and they're
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah,
a different color coming out.
right.
So,
Dark green.
okay, I was going to say the different color than that. But
Okay, gotcha.
immigration, that's the middle ground.
I like your middle
What do you
ground.
think?
And I'll tell you what, your middle ground doesn't make me up in arms or down in legs. It's perfect. I'm more of like just steady at the waist or steady at like the abdomen. And I think that's good. I like it, and I really do like your analogy about like the people how to take 10 years. I think that's a great analogy. I think that's going to be all over the internet next week because we're going to make that shit go viral. We're going to make that shit go like COVID, baby. It's going to hit everybody. Okay. Too soon? I don't know. All right. We're going to get to some or not hot takes. We've already done hot takes. You know what? This is a good time to take a break because I got a dog that wants to go outside and I got to pee. So that way I can cut that last part out. And then we're going to get to fake sponsors. And then we're going to get to the Convince Me segment. So if there's anything you've got to shore up on your Convince Me segment, go ahead and do it now. And I'll be back in like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, maybe
Sounds
a minute
good.
30, maybe two.
All right.
Those are the options.
Okay, I'll soon you.
All right.
I'll soon you get back.
Help us go. Come on, bro. Let me just take a short Pringle break.
Yeah.
All right. One other thing. I have a great idea for a show called Toilet Talk, where you just sit on the toilet and put your phone on and just start talking about stuff. But as you're doing
That's
it, like
okay.
you're straining, you're like, "Oh, I gotta, I think it'd be great. I don't want to do
That
it
would be
though.
funny.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to do it either, but that'd be
There
funny.
might be somebody out there that's already done it. We don't know.
There's like a Bobby Lee or somebody out there who
Yeah,
would do
Bobby
that
Lee
kind of
would
thing.
do it, or Theo
Yeah.
Vaughn kind of thing. Well, I don't know if Theo
Yeah.
it'd be more a Bobby Lee's anal alley. All right. Are you ready to get going?
Yeah, let's do it.
Mr. Kelsey Brammer, Frasier, from Cheers and from Frasier. Do you know what time it is?
That's right.
That's right.
It's time for our fake sponsors.
It is time for our fake sponsors. We are fake sponsored by Creamy Squirt Bites. Creamy Squirt Bites are delicious little niblets that'll squirt tasty cream into your mouth on every chomp, bringing you right back to your college days. These bites are so packed with flavorful fish fluids that ooze out on contact, bringing you right back to your sweaty yoga class days. Creamy Squirt Bites, so good you'll forget that it's pus. We are also fake sponsored by Toad the Wet Sprocket. Why Toad the Wet Sprocket? Because you don't want a dry sprocket, do you? And who better than a toad to get that sprocket all dewy and moist? Toad the Wet Sprocket. We have good intentions. All right, and those are our fake sponsors. It's time for a new segment that has no media clip to it. I have not made media for this segment, but I'm going to say that this is a segment about where we take a conspiracy theory, we each pick one, whether we believe in it or not, and we try hard to convince the other person that it is true. And so it's a segment we're calling Convince Me, and I'll start by saying, Brandon, convince me that your theory is true. Go for it. What is your theory?
Okay. Is that like a Nosferatu
A
kind
little
of
bit, yeah.
thing? You'd
It's a
okay.
little. Mine all sound. They always have some kind of Italian. Or if I put a finger mustache up, then I can do like a French thing, like "Scusi, I'm a French." Yeah, that's it. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the moon.
Not the moon.
Yeah,
Okay.
the moon. And there's something that I think that most people don't consider. It's right there in front of our faces. It's been there the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been there for a long time. That's the moon. So here's the core
Okay.
here's the core claim. The moon is functionally a monitoring and calibration instrument. Whether it's natural but used or artificially placed, doesn't matter. The point is it behaves like a platform or like a sensor. So my claim is that the moon is a giant sensor. And I'm going to lay out a couple facts here. And I think that I might be able to convince you and maybe somebody else out there. Okay. So everyone says that the moon is just a rock that happens to orbit us, but I think it's been the most successful surveillance device ever built. I think because first off, nobody suspects that it's been in the sky since before recorded history. Okay. A couple facts about the moon. It permanently faces the Earth. It's tidally locked. We're always looking at the same side of the moon. And this is absolutely perfect for an instrument for taking readings and other kinds of measurements. Imagine you had basically a tripod in space that you could have perfectly locked on looking at Earth. And it's always looking at Earth. In fact, it's always seeing half of Earth all the time. And so this is also perfect for observations. Now, the two sides to this claim are that the moon could have been built or that the moon was there, but it was used for the purposes of viewing us. So I think that most likely an alien species has been using the moon for observing humans and other kinds of activities around Earth. The moon has a highly predictable orbit, provides a constant platform for long-term measurements and calibration over sensories. And there's a couple other points I want to read off to you here. So we have solar and lunar eclipses, which are very precise. They are repeatable alignment moments. These are the exact kind of events you'd want to use for calibrating instruments for timing, geometry, and optical alignments. And the lunar phases, they create a built-in periodic schedule, like sort of a metronome for repeated observations at varying lighting and angles. A moon-sized platform requires no refueling.
Hmm.
It has extreme longevity and is resistant to quote unquote decommissioning. So it's also ideal for very long-term monitoring. So I think some of the counterpoints that people would say is that the moon is that there's other things like the moon. It makes like sense celestially that this rock would orbit us, but I think that that is also why it's perfect as well, because it's something that perfectly matches what we would naturally observe in space. So it's the perfect platform to be able to use as a sensor because we would never suspect it.
Is
What do you think?
is that it? Okay, I have a couple of questions. I think.
I have more points, yeah.
Well, I just have. So basically, what you're saying is that the moon is like a satellite, but it's like an alien satellite.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, that they've been in. So in this theory of yours, did we go to the moon or not? Did we discover that that's what it was, and we're just covering that up because we don't know how to shut it down?
I think that we went to the moon
Okay.
and that the surface of the moon, so we could have still went to the moon and landed on it without interrupting its sensor and satellite-like qualities. I think that the outer layer of the moon can still have these natural properties of this sort of like moon dust and rocky soil, while still being able to fulfill its core mission and what it's there for. Does the government know about it? I think that some people in the government probably do know about it, but not the whole government.
Hmm.
There's there's most likely a
Like the
a
Illuminati?
shadow group. Exactly. There's most likely a shadow group within the government that knows the truth about this. But of course, you can't let everybody know because of other implications that this has.
Hmm. Well, I'm going to say that that was 71% believable, and that's the number I'm putting on it. Do you like that number? Is that a good number for you?
It's interesting and it's telling.
It is very telling because you don't know how much
Yeah.
I want to minus 2%. But I like this theory. I think it's interesting. I just don't know, like, I realize that we just recently, like, as compared to like all of time, we've just recently begun to put up satellites that monitor Earth, right? So I could see why, like, if aliens would want to monitor this place, like they would need like stuff. But nowadays, would they really need the moon? Couldn't they just like hack into our stuff and just look that way? Or is the moon, is this satellite that they're using at the moon, is it still as important as it always has been for them?
I think it's even more important now than any point in history. And I think that it's controlled by the Greys
Well, the gray
and
ones,
the
okay,
government.
yeah. The grays are
Yeah, the
the, yeah,
Greys.
because there's, like, 3 different kinds of aliens, right? Like, that we know of? The grays,
There's a few kinds. We can get into that.
the gazoos from the
Yep.
Flintstones.
Yep.
Yeah,
And the fuchsias, those are from the other side of the universe, but we've been visited a few times.
okay. The fuchsias, okay.
Yeah,
That
so
makes me Confucius, but either way. Yeah. If I could
sure,
cross
yeah.
my eyes right now, I would, but I can't. Okay, I mean, do you got any other thing you wanna add, or
Well, I just think that I think that there's a lot of people that want to refute this, based on just their gut. It just seems like the moon is completely natural. And I just want to say that everything that makes it everything that makes it obvious that it's not this is a perfect reason why it would be a perfect sensor instrument implanted by the Greys. And it's because, I mean, like, if you're an alien species, you're not going to put something in orbit around the Earth or utilize something that's in orbit around the Earth that sticks out like a sore thumb, right? So you're gonna use something, and you're gonna use something, and you're gonna want to tidally lock it. And furthermore, what's going on the backside? Have you ever seen a satellite dish? Have you ever seen how the front looks like a dish and the back looks like there's all sorts of, there might be circuitry back there,
yeah,
and other things going on,
yeah.
right? So, I mean, there's a backside of the moon. That could look like,
The dark side?
lasers and wires and stuff.
Yeah, I just
Well, it's It's not always dark, but yeah.
I just thought they meant like it was like the dark side because they were like, if you go there, you never go back, kind of thing.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting, the dark side of the moon, because when it's a new moon, we're looking at the dark side.
Right. Yeah. Well, people aren't educated enough to know that. Come on.
Well,
We're pretty
and that's why,
human beings in general. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I just feel like human beings in general are pretty dumb for the most part. I mean, there are smart things that we've done in over time, but for the most part, as a collective, I think we're pretty dumb as a species.
yeah, I want to believe otherwise, but I remember, there's the famous quote that says, and who said this? The famous comedian. He's gone. He's dead now.
George Carlin,
He said,
maybe?
imagine,
Okay.
yeah, imagine how smart the average person is, and that half of the population is dumber than that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really great quote. And that reminds me of, yeah, it's actually kind of scary.
It is
But
very scary. I do remember reading that they put together some research, and it was like over 130 million people in this country that can't read past like a 6th grade level. And I was just like, that's crazy.
it's a lot.
Yeah, that's quite a high number. Yeah, okay. So the moon is a satellite for aliens. I believe you at 69%.
Okay. What happened to the 2%?
Nobody knows. Just
Just for milk.
yeah, it
Yeah.
went away. They took it away. The Greys. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, are you ready for my conspiracy theory?
Yeah. I'm going to just try to do better than 69, and we'll see where you land.
Okay. All right. I always try to do better than 69. All right. So my theory is reptilian shapeshifters control the world. All right. And I'm going to tell you this because I know for a fact this is true. And you want to know why? Because 10 years ago, I became one of these lizard men. They have infiltrated my body. It was their supreme leader, Nerf North. Nerf North, the Basker of Suns, because everybody has like a name. He's the supreme leader of the lizard people, the reptilians. And he told me it was okay to reveal this secret because he thinks that our race is too stupid to believe it anyways, even if anybody revealed it. But I want to give you some information that helps me reveal it. First of all, he wants to make sure that everybody knows that at some point that we're all going to take over everybody, but it's not going to be a bad thing. Your inner you will still be there, and you will still exist within the vessel that you're in. You will feel no pain, no sorrow, no anger, only love and torture from all beings. But you will feel no pain. So it'll be painless torture. He also wanted to make sure that people knew that he's taking over the world, but well, we all are, but it will be part of like a peaceful world, and that our reign will be eternity, for our power is forever. Now, I want to give you some background information. Shapeshifters, the reptilians who shapeshift, have been here since the early 1940s. It wasn't until we took over Nixon in 69 when we started becoming more powerful. We had a little setback with Watergate. Watergate was a lizard class failure in eavesdropping. I think it was then when our supreme leader, what was his name? Nerf North. I forget his name a lot. He's the Basker of Sons. He realized that we shouldn't be targeting that we shouldn't be targeting like high profile humans. Like he still wanted to, but he said, let's focus on more of the working class humans. And he wanted to start in the sex industry because our particular reptilian lizard species, our mating rituals only involve our tongues and our tails. And we wanted to see how the humans do it because humans find fascination with their own genitals. And the stories in the space sphere of human genitalia are quite interesting. So we wanted to check that out. We are also responsible for the Monica Lewinsky scandal. Billy Boy was taken over by one of our distinguished reptilians, Glib Glob, the waiter of water, but he got scared and left Clinton only a few years later. That happens from time to time. We may find a body that we can't control like we want to, and so we get out, and Bill Clinton was one of those bodies. I want to say that we've grown akin to Earth cuisine as we no longer just eat broccoli and kale, although we still eat flies when no one is looking. Also, we don't like cold climates, so we don't take over anyone that lives in any of in the Arctic or Antarctic circles. Some of us can breathe fire, but when we are in control of a human vessel, it just it just represents his bad breath. And that's why the fire breathers only take over like salad dressers to help explain, or sorry, salad tossers to help explain their shit breath. The fart on the salad joke just keeps going. We also have help from the salamandrians, who are also shapeshifters, but they only take over cats and dogs. And plenty of reptilians have been born in your world throughout the years, and some have even gone on to be successful and famous, such as Steve Buscemi, Adam Driver, Miley Cyrus, Seal. Seal is a reptilian. And recently, Sabrina Carpenter, who just really became big famous recently. We have taken over every single politician. And oddly enough, no matter what side they're on, we actually get along pretty great in private. Everything you see is all for show to sow a divide within the human race so it becomes easier to take over your world. And just if you were wondering, we've taken over some other, not only every politician in the US, but we've taken over some international people. So if you were wondering about some international people, Putin is a reptilian. His real name, the reptilian's name is Dave, the weirder of names. My name was Plip Plop, and they did not give me like an extra part of that name. It's just Plip Plop because I don't like any type of reptilian things. So we have taken over. We will be here forever and we will outlast you, but you will be here in spirit. Do you have any questions for me?
Plip plop kind of sounds like the sound a high horse would make.
It does. And that is completely 100% a coincidence. So I just want to point that out. Do you believe that there are reptilians taking over the world? What's your percentage?
I think right now I'm at about 4.20% on that.
Yeah, that is a high
So
horse.
pretty.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's not zero. It's not
That's
zero,
good.
importantly.
That's good.
Yeah.
I actually don't think that, like, obviously, I tried to be a little bit more humorous with that one, but I actually don't think that there's any conspiracy theory out there where I'd be like, well, I am 100% sure that that is false. I'm sure I'd still have there'd probably be some that are like less than 1%.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to hear more about the salad dressers.
And
And
the salad dressers.
yeah. And also what I
How
thought
they get those
in my
little
mind,
shirts on those pieces of lettuce.
yeah. And also for some reason, as a lizard, I was hearing you say salamander.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we actually call them that, but they don't like to be called that because they eat a lot
Yeah.
more salad than us. Like, because we've become more akin to the human food. Like, we're all good with like nachos and pizza, but
Yeah.
the
And it's
salamanders
also
are more vegan.
and it's also sexist because there could also be salad womanders out
There
there
could be.
and they should be
Yeah.
recognized.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is something that we don't actually like the politically correctness of things. As being a reptilian species, we're not into that. We've never been into that, but we are deep in to some people as a reptilian. Yeah, like
Are you egg-laying reptiles?
deep in. We used to be, but once we take over the humans, we can have babies, such as Steve Buscemi was born as a reptilian. Adam Driver, Miley Cyrus, Seal.
Yeah.
Seal was born.
Yeah, I always thought the seals were mammals, so that threw me for a loop.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. And for people who think that I'm referring to the British singer, I am actually referring to a seal that I know from SeaWorld.
Yeah. Salad seal.
Yeah, a salad
short.
seal. We don't have to let this charade
So
go on anymore.
okay. All right.
That was our new segment called Convince Me. It might be only a one-time segment.
It's funny because I felt so bad about I was like, I was not enjoying my segment. I was like, I should have prepared differently for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard yours, and you know what? Yours was better than mine. But I could hear a little bit of like some painful parts of it. I feel I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I was reading into it, but
I felt like there was some parts where I was just like, this isn't going. It's
this is
even
not.
as a reptilian, it's hard to believe that myself exists. So
Yeah.
I'm having an existential
Yeah.
crisis as a reptilian.
Yeah, there's a dysmorphia.
Yeah.
I think that is associated with that. So okay,
All right.
You know what's funny though that I learned about it, and you learn about this in music and other things too, whereas that sometimes you feel like things aren't going well, and then somebody else will come along and say that I really enjoyed that.
Well,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
That was like always the
and then
best when
sometimes
you
when
had a
I'm in the
song that you didn't like, right? And then somebody's like, "No, that was actually really
yeah, you
good."
have a song, you're like, I'm not feeling this, and somebody's like, that's actually one of my favorite songs.
Right.
I've had that a lot with playing performances on stage with live shows,
Yeah.
and performing a song, and I would play a whole set and be like, that was one of my weaker performances. That was not good. And somebody will say, that was like one of the best times I've seen you. You sounded great. And I always thought that was odd. And I don't know what that's about. I don't know if it has to do with just being miscalibrated
Yeah.
of like what your gut is feeling versus what's actually happening,
Right.
or if there's something to like, if you're off a little bit, there's like something that naturally comes out because now you're like a piece of driftwood kind of floating around, you're not sure where you are, and there's some quality or some endearing quality that kind of emanates out from that, so I don't know, maybe maybe that whole segment will just
It
be
might
like
be the
a
most
favorite
popular
segment of
segment that
somebody
we've ever had. I don't know. It
that
could
would
end up that way.
it
But yeah,
could
I
surprise
totally
me.
get it. I had that when I pooped on stage once, and I was like, "That's bad," and they're like, "No, it was actually the greatest performance I've ever seen."
And they loved it.
They loved
Yeah, and they
that.
loved it.
And as far as driftwood, it doesn't drift too far, if you know what I mean. I don't know. I actually don't know what I mean. So
Well, yeah,
yeah.
especially in the morning, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it's definitely not there. Should we get back to the pod? Should we get back to
Did you
the
ever
political middle? Okay, sorry. You got more. No, you got more things to say. I'll allow
Oh
you to say
gosh.
them.
Well, I wanted to ask you one quick
As the
question.
reptilian, I will
Did you ever
allow.
have a roast Sure, because the split tongue gave it away, honestly. Did you ever have a roast joke that you were like, this probably won't get a laugh, but I'll throw it in because I need some filler, and then it did get a laugh? Because I know
I
you
probably
did comedy,
did.
you did jokes.
I wish, I used to have my whole set from the first roast, and I don't know what happened to it. And I really wish I had it because I just love to like, it'd be awesome to just have a podcast where I'm like, hey, even though you really don't know the people I'm roasting, it might still kind of, maybe I could put pictures of them out there. But
Yeah,
I mean, I do remember that for a couple of different friends, I wrote some material. And, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to give them my strongest material, but I'm going to give them enough material to where I think that maybe every once in a while I would throw a joke that maybe I really wanted. But both of those friends didn't end up doing it, and I got the material back anyways. And I think there was a few things in some of those where I was like, well, I don't know if that's actually going to get a laugh. I actually felt like it would get a better laugh from the people that were going to originally do it
mm,
than me, and that would happen too.
yeah,
But off the top of my head, I'm sure I have said things. The great thing about that is everybody was liquored up enough, and I feel like it's kinda like a bad song. Like, there's songs out there that, like, I feel like are notoriously bad unless you're drunk at a club, and then everybody's like, "Fuck yeah, this is my jam," right?
yeah,
So, I don't know. It definitely probably did happen though, but I can't really think of much because I was pretty funny.
sure.
I was pretty funny. Alright,
Oh yeah.
let's go.
All right.
You're very convincing. Oh, yeah. I bet you were
Well,
funny. Alright.
yeah.
We've got two more topics to discuss about trying to get to the middle ground. And the first one is going to be climate change. Okay. And obviously, I think that the the extremes here would be we don't believe in it at all. And then the other extreme would be we're all gonna fucking die from this tomorrow. So let's talk a little bit about climate change. And obviously, there are different versions. There are people who think it's just all natural, that this has happened before and we're going to keep doing, and it's just the natural way to go. There's people that question the man made part of it. But how do we save ourselves when the world doesn't listen, when the rest of the world doesn't listen? I guess that's the ultimate question. How do we get this in the middle ground? How do we talk to people and say, it does exist? There is a lot of man made parts to it, but I also don't think that we have to stop everything we're going to do right now, right here, right now, because we're all going to wake up one day in the next month. And if the sun is out, we're instantly going to be like on fire in
My
flames.
opinion is, what do we do about it?
That's a good
And
opinion.
thanks, I appreciate it. I think that we have a faster middle ground we can reach. by talking about what we do about it
Yeah.
than by either what's actually happening. Because I suspect that there's people on the left and the right that will be closer.
Is this the
They'll be
one out of the
closer.
4? Do you feel like that this is the one that the people would be the closest on? The other one's gonna be gun rights, obviously, but do you think out of the 4 things we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Climate change.
Yeah.
I think so, because I think that there is a middle ground that benefits both. I think it benefits both sides
Yeah.
if we can reach some sort of technological utopia through the powers that be of free market capitalism and the tech sectors that we have here in America, and the ability to mitigate the damage caused by global warming and man-made global warming, climate change. So if I can inject a little bit of myself into this, I think that my hope is that we can sort of grow our way out of it. And I think that technology can provide us answers,
Yeah.
but the disagreement comes from how useful it is to go all gas, no brakes in that direction versus trying to hedge ourselves and slow down the sectors of our economy and the parts of our culture that create the worst emissions, while at the same time trying to let technology go as far as it can into the direction of, being able to help us and save us ultimately. So there's also, well, yeah, let me kind of stop there. So I think the middle ground will be the right and the left kind of agreeing that there is some amount of climate change happening and that some amount of it is bad for us. And that on some timeline, if we don't do anything, it'll get worse and worse, and to the point where we have to adapt to it, or it'll have major negative consequences for the human race, right?
Right.
So I think we can broadly kind of get to that agreement point. What do you think? I mean, I know I'm kind of like foreshadowing what I'm trying to get to, which is the middle ground, where it's like, my personal middle ground, which I think we need to grow out of it. But I'm interested to hear what you think.
I think that yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. I think that people have to take like, because I guess if you're going to take like the farthest reaches, and if you're going to take people who literally don't believe it at all that it's even happening, and I'm talking about even like the natural sense, they're like, no, there's no global warming happening. Look outside, there's so much snow. Those people who don't really realize how it works. That there's ice ages involved and things like that. And then there's the other people that are like, "No, you gotta do it. You gotta, we gotta do it now. We're all gonna burst into flames or whatever happens." I think that you got a good point that I think, first of all, I think people need to be educated. And once again, they need to trust their sources. They need to trust the scientists that have been studying this for over 100 years. If people don't know that, they've been talking about this for over 100 years. Since we started becoming an industrialized world, people knew that the things that we were shooting out into the air might not be the best for it. And so I think that people have to realize that. I also think that people have to realize that ice caps are melting, and sometimes they melt because I whisper sweet nothings into their ear and they're like, oh. And then other times they're melting because it's just too damn hot. And the one thing that probably freaks me out most that people don't talk about that is because people make jokes all the time. They're like, oh, there's going to be more water in the ocean, and some of the lower points of land are going to get flooded out, so we're just going to have our coastline's going to move in a little bit more or whatever. Who cares? Okay, that's not really the main fact of everything. The main thing is once you start melting these things that have not been melted for millions and millions of years or whatever it is, and you start releasing the things that are in there that we don't know about, or there's radiation that's been stuck in there, there's old diseases that might come out, there's all these things that could get into the air and cause other issues and problems. And then you also think about the political ramifications. And I believe this is one of the reasons why, ironically, that our current president wants Greenland. And that is because there's already shipping up there, and Russia has a lot of it. And people are going to start fighting over this area that all of a sudden has become easier to navigate because there's not as much ice or, anything, whatever else was keeping them from navigating it. And so there's a lot of things there. But to me, that says, I think that there are a lot of people that do believe it. I think that, like you said, the majority of people believe in some kind of climate change. Some people might have an issue with it being man-made or not or whatever it is. But I also don't like the idea of like Elon Musk kind of idea has always been like, well, let's get to Mars, let's get to or a different country or a different world or whatever, and let's set up base there. Let's do that. So we have this ideology where we're like, oh, let's ruin this world and then we'll just move on to another one, which to me is kind of fucked up. It's like, well, why don't you just spend the money that you're spending on that to fix this one? You know, the one that you all believe, and I believe too, but I'm just saying that those certain people that'll say this believe that God made, you know, for us all. But yeah, I do think that most people would believe that it's true. I think that some people may say that it's not, but I think that they do believe. I think that there are politicians out there, obviously they cater to their base, right? So if they got a lot of people thinking certain things are hoaxes, they're probably going to tiptoe around things so they can, you know, remain in office and get the votes that they want to get. But I do agree with you. I think the middle ground there is getting people educated enough to realize that we do have the right technology, and AI is definitely going to play a role, and there's going to be other things there that will help play a role to get people into the middle. And but I just want to let people know that I really do think that's one of the reasons why Trump is interested in Greenland, and that tells me that those guys all believe in climate change or some part of it because they know what's going to be opening up in the future.
Yeah. And we also have, you know, with the so with climate change, global warming, ice caps melting, Russia's territory will be a lot more usable for, I mean, like I would imagine they also have a lot of benefits for farming and agriculture and parts of their land opening up to other uses.
Right. Because all they do right now is grow ice.
Yeah, which is a big problem because we all have ice machines now.
Yeah. It doesn't help.
Just over Christmas, we got 2 ice makers in the house from different
Oh,
people
nice.
receiving them. So, yeah. So, but that's Russia's problem now.
Yeah,
Canada is in a nice spot for global warming,
definitely.
I think.
Another country that Trump wanted to join the US. So, interesting
Yeah.
strategies there. Like, I do feel like that although Trump he does make sense on some of this stuff, right? Because obviously I'm not a big Trump guy, but I obviously do know I'm gonna be level-headed enough to know when somebody's actually making the right point, and I don't really feel like that way with him a lot. But I do know that I think he knows that he understands that. I think there is a reason for him wanting to do this other than just being like some people just be like, oh, he's just being a dick, right? But I think that there
Yeah.
obviously are strategic reasons for that.
Yeah. I have something funny to say about Greenland because I was just talking to somebody the other day about it. I kind of want Greenland, and it's selfish,
Do you want to visit there?
but
Like, would you ever visit there, or you
I think
just
it
want it for the U.S.'s
no,
sake?
not for conquest. No, not for conquest. But I just think
You personally
I
want to
just
buy
want
it?
another. Yeah, I mean, if I have to put my bid in, but
Okay, got
I'm
you.
fielding
It's
offers,
on eBay.
or okay.
Yeah.
Do they have the buy it now set?
They don't. They got rid of that. They got rid of that one.
See, that's the problem with these eBay
Yeah,
sellers.
they figured that
I
they'd be
always,
much more profitable to them if they just had a bidding war.
yeah, I give them low grades for that.
Yeah,
So what I'd like to do is visit Greenland without having to get a passport. I think that would
but
be fun.
that's what you're saying is that like the whole reason why you want Greenland is so you didn't have to have a passport, which I do feel like I've thought the same about Canada because I have wanted to visit Canada, and I'm like, oh god, it'd be so much easier if I don't have to worry about this passport bullshit, you know. But
Yeah.
if they could just,
Well, can't you visit Canada with an enhanced license?
I don't even know. Like I thought they changed it recently, but I don't know for sure.
I don't.
But you
I
may be
think that.
right. Maybe I'm worrying about it too much. You know,
Well, not everybody can get the enhanced license though. That's only for people in
yeah,
select states, I believe.
yeah. I think you have to have an
In the
enhanced
great.
penis to get it.
Okay, well, they let me in, all the
So
way up
you're
to the
good.
North Pole.
You're good to go.
Yeah,
Okay. Good
yeah.
for you, man.
I can
Good for you.
I can circumnavigate the
Go
globe
go
on
gadget
that. So
dick.
yeah.
Good job. All right. Well,
So that
yeah,
yeah. So I want
I
Greenland.
think we found some middle ground. What we've learned right now is that we found some middle ground with the global warming, and that Mr. Kelsey Brammer here himself would like to have Greenland, just so he could visit there without a passport. I don't know what Denmark has to say about that, but they have been saying a lot of things lately. And considering how small Denmark is, I'm not sure if they're ever going to give up that big giant island. But we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the fourth and final kind of political issue, and it is involving gun rights.
Gun rights.
This is always a fun one for people. I guess that people on the right in a far extreme way would say everybody deserves a gun no matter what. And then people on the left would say, I guess the far extreme version. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that I don't know too many people that believe in this. The far extreme version, especially according to people on the right, would be we should take away everybody's guns and nobody has guns. But I think that both of those extremes are very, very rare. Would you agree with me on that? Like, I feel like that's very rare.
Yeah.
I've never actually heard a politician say everybody deserves guns or we're going to take away everybody's guns. I've never really heard that.
I learned this from my nephew, but there's a county. I don't know if it's a city. I think it's a county. There's a county in Georgia where to live in the county you have to have a gun.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
I hope I'm getting
What
that
about
right.
a finger guns?
But it's
How about these guns? Or these guns? Yeah, I know my way to the weight room. No, I don't. I don't, actually. I don't even know why I said that. The only weight room I'm ever in is the doctor's weight room for my doctor. Yeah, it's a doctor's office.
Yeah.
That should have been a hot take.
But yeah, it should have been. Yeah, I do agree with you. Yeah, those extremes are not common.
Yeah.
I think that the middle extremes are the I don't know, that's a oxymoron maybe.
Mhm.
But the middle extremes are probably that everybody should be able to have the guns that they want to have and have the freedom to own whatever guns they want to have. If they want to own no guns, fine. But if they want to own a bunch of guns, if they want to own 100 guns, maybe even people can even own. I know there's been some talk about like fully automatic weapons.
Mm.
So you could maybe people should be able to own those. I don't know. And then probably the left extreme is not the left extreme, but the left middle point. Well, why don't you quantify it, classify it for us here?
The left middle point would probably be universal background checks, which I think is actually more popular than people think. I think there's people on the right that hear that and say that you're infringing on our right to own guns. We shouldn't be investigated or whatever, have whatever it is. But I actually think that's actually a popular thing. I think universal background checks has always pulled quite well. But I do want to talk about the word infringed for a minute because I've seen plenty of people who use this word. They love to use this word because it's straight up out of the Second Amendment. And so infringed obviously means like that you can't be violated or transgressed against or encroached upon. Now, when people say nobody should infringe on my right to own a gun, the government already does infringe. Would you agree? Like there are certain felonies like where you can or like convicts or whatever, like there's certain people that can't own guns, which to me is already infringing on their right if you think that they can't be infringed upon no matter what, but they are already kind of doing that anyways.
Yeah, it seems subjective to me. I had to write down these terms because I really hate them. The fact that you use one sentence that had encroached, transgressed, and infringed all in it really just it's like what that I don't even know what that language really means.
That's straight out of and that was the straight up definition out of like a Webster's dictionary for the word infringed. So it's already like language is probably something we should have talked about like initially with all of these things. That makes a big difference, right? Like the kind of language you use, and there's propaganda language, there's all kinds of things that people can say to try to get people on their side or to believe things. So I think that's important too. Also bump stocks, which is what the Las Vegas shooter, if people remember the whole Las Vegas shooter who was shooting a bunch of people in a concert, an outside concert from a hotel room, he used bump stocks. President Trump was the president in his first term at the time, actually outlawed them. Great thing. If you add a bump stock to a gun, you can fire up to 800 rounds in a minute. Brandon, do you feel like there's any hunting situation or any maybe self-defense situation where you need to be able to fire 800 rounds in a minute?
I mean, like rabbits are really hard to shoot.
I get it.
Because they're so squirrely and small, and they're like hopping everywhere.
So just for rabbits, then.
Yeah, rabbits,
Rabbits
salamanders,
and salamanders.
Yeah, like just
well, they're
those
small,
types
so you're
of-
going to need a lot. I mean, one you might hit them one time, and the other 799 rounds don't do anything. But
yeah, whenever you're hunting little squirmy slitheries and hoppity hoppities, you gotta go bumpity bumpity sometimes.
But what I wanted to say about the bump stocks was that the President Trump at the time in his first term did outlaw these, but then in 2024, the Supreme Court said, no, 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 you can't do that. And they made them legal again. Now, there are certain states that have outlawed them. Also, in the big, beautiful bill last year, it took away a tax on silencers. So people can no longer have to pay a tax on silencers. Now, Brandon, is there any reason for self-defense or killing an animal you need a silencer?
I actually have an opinion on this that you might find it interesting. I actually think that silencers should almost be a requirement.
Is it just because
I
it's
think
too
that the
loud? Noise pollution?
Yeah, I think the noise pollution
Okay.
that all these guns are giving off in modern society is too much. And I think that every gun should come with a silencer.
Doesn't that
as a
doesn't that
mandatory
kind of help
attachment.
like officers and stuff know which direction? Like if somebody calls and said I heard a gunshot, but they're going to be like, it was just like and I don't know which direction.
Based on what I've looked into it, based on the videos that I've seen about these silencers, is that they don't really. It's not like a video game or a movie,
right? It's not.
They're just taking the edge off.
Yeah,
yeah, they're just taking the edge off the sound and making it a little bit less harsh.
They're edging those guns.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So these guns are still loud and they can still be heard from distances, but the silencer is like, why are we first off, in how many mass shootings do we know of? Can we count where we know the people committing the mass shootings were using silencers?
Yeah, I don't think.
I actually don't think.
Yeah,
I don't know one.
No, that's more probably like a serial killer thing, maybe.
Yeah, and so not only do we not know of them, and they make the guns more cumbersome because they add significant length to the nose of the gun, whatever you're putting it on.
Right.
It makes it harder to conceal your weapons if you have a silencer. It doesn't actually make it whisper quiet, and it saves noise pollution. So yeah, my alternative viewpoint on this is actually that silencers should be way. I think that there should be, how do you say, registration for silencers, but I actually don't even think that they should be like a license that's super exclusive.
What if they just made them for everything that was loud?
Like a silencer for them. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Like, what about just silencers? Instead of putting them on the things that are loud, what if you could just put them right on your ears?
Oh, there you go. Well, don't they have those?
Yeah.
Aren't those just like, don't they?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think they have that already.
Yeah, they might have those.
Yeah. Also, I think that if you're going to silencer, you should just probably put a ball gag in her mouth.
A gagger. Okay.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, gagger. You can always use a gagger instead of a silencer.
Not to be confused with the watermelon smasher Gallagher.
Right, Gallagher, who got married on the day I was born, because I watched a Gallagher biography one time, and that was the only thing I remember. So that was cool.
Very, very heartwarming.
Yeah, it was a very heartwarming biography on Gallagher. Nobody should ever watch a biography on Gallagher. He's just not, I don't know. He's cool, but he's not that interesting to me.
Yeah, gray hair, though.
Yeah.
So he... to get back to silencers, I think that anybody should be able to get them pretty much.
All right.
And
all right.
And maybe even be mandated.
I will once you have your first baby, I will make sure I get that for him on his or her first birthday.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe they'll stop crying.
Is that kind of like when a father gets their 2-year-old a new PlayStation 5?
Might be.
And they're like, it's for
you,
the baby.
It's for you, but I'm gonna be the one playing it all the time, and that's how I watch the baby while the baby's hunched over in the corner somewhere with a cat eating its face, because that happens. Yeah, cats eat babies.
No, but not to be not just to be a contrarian, but I think that it is one of those things where it's very easy to have a gut reaction to that silencers equal bad. But I actually think that they're not that bad. I actually think that they should be even slightly less, not just free, like everybody gets a silencer, but I think that they could even be less regulated, and I'd be very fine with it.
All right. Well, that's kind of a hot take from Brandon, but I don't know. I mean, I don't really disagree with you, really. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I feel like there's going to be some counter arguments there, but I just don't have them right now. I'm all political out in my brain, and my brain's thought about too much political things. And
But keep going on. There's other guns things that you're gonna win me over
Oh
on.
no, that was it.
Oh, shoot. So yeah, where is the middle? How do we get to the middle, Matt? And
I say you
can
start from one
can we?
end and I'm at the other end, and we just walk towards each other until
Okay,
we.
that kind of
Yeah,
that sounds like one of those Western standoffs
a little
where
bit.
you then spin around and shoot each
Well, no,
other.
because they walk away
Mm.
from each other. It's gonna be like an
Oh, I
opposite
see.
of a duel.
So how we do in reverse? We start off putting our guns away,
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
and then we turn around so we're facing away from each other, but then we walk towards each other.
Yeah, yeah. Wouldn't Hamilton still be alive well, not to this day, but he'd still be alive if they just did a reverse duel. If Raymond Burr and him did a reverse duel.
Sure, yeah. Mark Hamilton?
Uh, well, I think it's just Mark Hamill, but yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
No, to get to the middle with the guns, I think this is a tougher one. I think there are people, like I said, that really, really focus on that Second Amendment and certain words in there, and it is weird to me that it is the second one that's what our forefathers came up with. They're like their first one was like, okay, let's make sure that everybody has free speech, all that, and then the whole. I would really like to know like why that was the second one, like why that one was the second most important thing they felt like they should put in the Bill of Rights originally. But I think this one's tough. I think that, like I told you, my middle ground is probably universal background checks just to make sure. And the other thing would be classes, safety classes. I feel like that
Yeah.
the middle ground for me is the same thing that you would have if you were a police officer. And I don't know if they're doing this for ICE officers, but for police officers, you have to go through a safety course, right? And you have a background check before you're a police officer. What's so bad about that? Why don't we think that an everyday citizen should be like is not up to the same standard as a like a police officer has to do more because that's their job, but an everyday citizen who does have no experience can just go ahead and get a gun all willy-nilly in some places. It's a great willy-nilly is I love that. Willy-nilly. Also another name of a reptilian I know. Yeah. So, I mean, do you feel like that's a good middle ground, or are you
I would
more.
say I would say more like driving a car than I would being a police officer. Yeah, do you think we can find middle ground within there? I would say that owning a gun should be like the same hoops you jump through to be able to drive a car on the
Well, that's
streets.
kind of the same, right? Because you have to take a safety course. So you would have
Yeah,
to take a safety course. You don't necessarily need a
yeah.
background check to get your license, at least not when you're 16 or 15 or whenever, well, like whenever you can get it. But I don't know if older people get background checks, like if they lose it and then they have to get it back. I'm assuming, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, honestly, because I've never had to deal with that. But
But you can commit certain you can commit certain crimes. I guess these are more like traffic violations that add up to you not having a license
right.
to drive like permanently.
Yeah.
If you know DUIs and things like that. So I'm not saying throw background checks out the window either. Like I think that we should have those, and it does make sense for owning a firearm, especially if you have violent crime in your history, and especially violent gun crime. I know that it's very hard for some like domestic violence people who are guilty of that to have guns, and I think that makes sense because there's a very high link between those types of crimes leading to
Right. Yeah.
the crimes
Repeat
that are
offenders, things like that. Yeah.
yep, exactly, yeah. So I'm fine with that, but in terms of the difficulty beyond the background check of getting a firearm, I'm similar with something like driving a car. The only reason why I separated that from a police officer is because I just felt like being a police officer was a little bit more like, were you talking about the becoming a police officer? Because it seems like there's more hoops to do that
Right.
than
No,
to just
I
drive
was
a car.
simply saying that if a police officer has to do a safety check and a background check, then why are we not doing this for a regular citizen? Because like the police officer has a job to do. There's a reason for that. But a regular citizen should be at like that. Like you're not even a police officer. You're just a regular guy with a gun. You probably should be held to at least that standard. I do know there's other things, you got some police officers go through like what do they call it? Like some kind of like a camp, a police camp. I don't remember what they call it. But yeah, there
Academy?
you go. Police academy where they go for like whatever, how long it is, 6, 8, 10. I don't know how long it is because I'm not a police officer and I haven't looked it up. But
Did you watch those movies?
The Police Academy movies? Probably way back in the day. I mean, the only fun one was like back in the day was the guy that always made the sound effects, right? The sound effects guy.
Michael Winslow, maybe?
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Winslow, who was Carl's
He's a
brother,
great guy.
right? From Family Matters. Also knew Steve Urkel a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Let's just say yes.
Okay.
Let's
I
lock it in
forgot
as
you
a
probably
yes.
I don't think you've ever seen Family Matters, so you don't know their last name was Winslow. But that's okay. It's for another day. All right. Well, Kelsey Brammer, I don't think we did a very good job of solving the world's problems, but I think that at least we kind of helped people understand that you've got to be educated. You've got to trust your sources. Not all the time, but you've got to trust the sources that should be trusted. And people just need to understand that there's always going to be extremes no matter what. And we can never get everybody all in the middle. But we can try, and we can try to make a better world, and we can try to be better people. Do you have any final thoughts?
The moon.
Just that.
It's out there, it's listening, and it's time that we take it seriously.
The crazy thing is as a reptilian, I should be able to help confirm this theory because we do have somewhat of a relationship with the Greys, but they really haven't told us about this information, which makes me think that really they're actually monitoring the reptilians that are on Earth taking over the humans. Which means what you just brought up means that there's now going to be an intergalactic war between the reptilian species and the Greys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a 0.69 times 0.42. Yeah, and then you take the what's it called? What's the little curly F?
The ampersand?
No, boy, I can't think of it.
The curly F. I don't know.
The scaly grays. We're talking about the scaly grays. Oh no, the scaly
it's
greens.
Like you just came back from like a radio commercial.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the scaly greens here in the grays.
Yeah.
Bottom of the ninth.
2 outs. Gray alien on first. All right. Yeah, we should do that sometime. All right. Well, I think this was a good episode. I want to remind people to whoever get this far, 2 hours into our episodes and actually get to the end of them, which probably isn't anybody. But if you are one of the lucky few, you've just won a bunch of money. Yeah. Anyways, I am Matrix Stewart. He is Kelsey Brammer. Join us every week on Spotify, on YouTube, on Facebook, and we are going to be on Instagram soon, too. So we're going to be all over the fucking place. So you can't avoid us, assholes. So get on it. Listen to our stuff. Like it. Share. Have a good time. Thank you for watching.